Nice.
Welcome to Action Packed, where we look at action movies and find out just how packed they are. Today we'll be looking at Thunderball, the fourth James Bond movie released in 1965. Director Guy Hamilton was too creatively burnt out after working on Goldfinger, so Terence Young would come back to direct his final Bond film. Thunderball is definitely an interesting one to go out on, as it was always meant to be the first in the series, but it couldn't happen because it was just a legal mess. Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond with collaborators Kevin McClory and Jack Whittingham, started working on a film adaptation for Bond sometime in the late 50s. When the project fell through, Fleming decided he still wanted to use the stories, so in 1961 he published his ninth novel, Thunderball, without any credit to McClory or Whittingham. They sued, and McClory retained certain rights to Spectre, Bond, and the story. Jack Whittingham also wrote a book about the whole thing. Fearing a rival Bond film out of their control, the current producers Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman agreed to have McClory credited as the sole producer on the film. Joke's on them, because he made another movie anyway. It wasn't until 2013, after McClory and Fleming had both passed away, and 52 years after the initial lawsuit, that MGM and Eon Productions finally purchased back the rights that McClory had. This gave them the go-ahead for the 2015 Daniel Craig movie. Thunderball follows Bond as he investigates a plot by SPECTRE, a criminal organization we've seen twice already. They plan to steal 2 atomic bombs from NATO and hold a ransom for £100 million in diamond, masterminded this time by SPECTRE Agent Number 2, Emilio Largo. If the ransom isn't paid, SPECTRE plans to detonate them over a random major city in England or the United States. It's up to Bond to find and secure those bombs before the ransom has to be paid. The title song this time round is sung by Tom Jones. Johnny Cash also had one, but it went unused, and they're both awesome. And they're also in the description for you to check out. It was the first in the series to break 2 hours in length, so there go my hopes for a shorter video, and yes, this movie made lots and lots of money. Was the action good enough to sue someone over? Let's start the movie and find out. The movie begins with a pre-credit scene in France, where James and his French liaison, Mademoiselle Laporte, are attending the funeral of Spectre Agent Number 6, Jacques Beauvoir. Beauvoir was responsible for the murder of 2 of Bond's colleagues, and James watches Beauvoir's widow leave the funeral. Noticing something off immediately, he goes after her. Did you see it? Did you see what Bond sees? Here's your hint. It's incredibly sexist. Bond rushes after the widow with Laporte and somehow gets inside her house before she does? Damn, James, chill. Wait, that isn't a grieving widow at all. The tip-off Bond had earlier was that he opened the car door himself, which a woman would never do. Bond wrestles around a little with Beauvoir before using his plot armor to win and crush Beauvoir's neck with a fire poker, giving us an early kill, making number 6 our number 1. A couple of Beauvoir's security guys start banging on the door, letting James know it's time to skadoot. Throw some flowers for him, man. He did the entire fight scene in heels. A little chase ensues as the henchmen try to run Bond down, and I'll put that on the list because foot chases are just as important here. Then Bond gets away in a fucking jetpack? What? This is actually a real jetpack designed by the US military called the Bell Rocket Belt. They defunded it because of its lackluster flight time, with it only being able to fly for about 20 seconds, but these shots are real flight shots flown by pilot Bill Suter. James jetpacks his ass down to the Aston Martin where security isn't far behind, but James shoots them with some water cannons, giving us a pretty cool transition. After being hit with Tom Jones' succulent tones, we're introduced to Emilio Largo, Spectre Agent Number 2, eye patch and everything. Largo enters a secret door and heads to a meeting with the rest of Spectre. Number 1, head of the organization and still avid lover of cute little kitties, gets a financial rundown from Number 11 and Number 9, the Spectre Agents of America. They report less earnings from their selling of narcotics than what Number 1 expected, and he's confident they're embezzling. Even though Number 11 is considerably more sweaty, Number 1 electrocutes Number 9 in his chair and gives us another quick kill. Now that the killing's done, let's talk money. Number 2 steps up and talks about his new plan to steal some nukes from NATO, hold a ransom of £100 million, and get paid, baby. And you know, if they don't see the money, they'll just detonate one of them, no big deal. He stationed Spectre Agent Count Lippy at Shrublands Health Clinic, conveniently located near a NATO airbase. Also conveniently located nearby James, who's been sent to the same clinic by M after his mission in France. James and Lippy briefly meet each other, and James notices a suspicious tattoo on the Lipster's arm. The movie kinda turns Animal House here. Lippy tries to kill James on a backstretching machine. James turns the heat up and puts a broom in the handles of the steaming machine. James does do a little spying though, creeping around Lippy's room and almost getting caught by a mystery man with his face covered. We find out from Patricia Fearing, Bond's physiotherapist, that the bandage man's name is Mr. Angelo. She also says this when she straps Bond down in the stretcher.
Yeah, now, first time I felt really safe all day.
That's not good, Patricia. I guess Lippy gets out of the steam machine because we cut to him outside of this apartment building calling the room of Major Francois Duval and Fiona Volpe. Fiona Volpe was a character created for the movie and doesn't actually appear in the novel. She's played by Italian actress Luciana Paluzzi. Paluzzi? Paluzzi. The character's original last name was Kelly and was meant to have an Irish background, but it was changed to Volpe, an Italian name, to seem more realistic and match Paluzzi's real nationality. Lippy asks to talk to Mr. Angelo, but there's no Mr. Angelo here, stupid, so Volpe hangs up. But the phone rings again, this time for Duval getting word that his car has arrived. Duval opens the door to leave and runs into Duvall? We got a Duvall devastation as the imposter Duvall sprays the real Duvall with a nerve gas, instantly killing him. Count Lippy enters close behind and the imposter is revealed to be Mr. Angelo, having undergone surgery to look like Duvall. Fiona's in on the plot too, and all three are working with SPECTRE. Their part in number 2's plan is to get Angelo to use Duvall's NATO presence to get on a flight and bring the 2 bombs it has aboard to number 2. Angelo wants a little more cash for the trouble, and realizing their hands are kinda tied at this point, Fiona agrees, but I don't know Angelo. Angelo does get on the flight though, and everything's going to plan. We get a cutaway to Bond discovering Duvall's body at Shrublands after being brought in to look like it was Angelo who died. The one thing I don't get is Count Lippy is right here with a gun. Why doesn't he just kill Bond if that was his plan? I don't know. But Bond gets away after calling emergency and knocking this guy out. This confusion brings us back to the NATO jet, where Angelo is called up to co-pilot, immediately filling the other masks with that deadly nerve gas and giving us a quick 5 kills for the other guys aboard. He switches course to number 2, parking the jet underwater, and Largo and the boys swim down from the boat to secure those bombs and see that Angelo is stuck. Oh no. Don't worry, man. Number 2's gonna make sure you don't need to breathe ever again. Largo kills Angelo for trying to get more money out of SPECTRE. Largo's frogmen cover the jet in camouflage, and back aboard Largo's boat, we meet Ladislav Kutz, Largo's nuclear specialist hired to look after the bombs. With the bombs now acquired, number 1 puts a hit out on Count Lippy for bringing Angelo into the project. Lippy is currently stalking James as he leaves the health clinic. Again, don't know why he just didn't kill him here, but alright. He follows him out and shoots at him a little, but the SPECTRE agent sent to kill Lippy is just too good right now, taking Lippy out with a motorcycle rocket launcher. What? We get 2 explosions to add here, one when Lippy is hit and one when he turns off the road, and of course we get a kill as the Lipster was still inside. Biker speeds past James and dumps the bike in some water. Taking off their helmet, it's revealed to be Fiona Volpe. Or maybe it's Maybelline. James gets to M's office, but Moneypenny tells him to head to the conference room. Every other 00 agent has been called in for an emergency meeting with the Home Secretary. Then we get this scene, which is no doubt in the nightmares of every kid who's ever been late to class. The Home Secretary shows the agents a tape from number 1, claiming ownership of the atomic bombs that went missing. That unless SPECTRE is paid £100 million, they're gonna use them. The officials leave M to brief the agents on their mission, and he gives them the go-ahead to open the confidential folder they all have in front of them.
Codename? Thunderball.
Title drop, nice. The folder contains a picture of Duvall with his sister Domino on a beach. When James gets his individual briefing, M tells him he's stationed in Canada. Alright, but I guess James hates good times, so he requests going to Nassau in the Bahamas instead. He explains that he saw Duvall dead at Shrublands, and that he has to go ask his sister some questions to get to the bottom of this. Now in the Bahamas, James saves Domino from certain terrifying death as she gets trapped in a rock, diving alone. Coming to the surface, we also meet Paula Kaplan, a CIA agent there to assist James. Bond ditches Paula though, and goes to have lunch with Domino instead. Domino is played by Claudine Auger, and her voice dubbed by Nikki Vanderzeel, who did the voices for a lot of women across the Bond films, including Jill Masterson and Honey Rider. At lunch, Bond continues to ask Domino questions, noticing a man that's been following them. Domino says his name is Quist, and he's there to keep an eye on her. When the Disco Volante pulls ashore, she excuses herself and shuts down any attempt Bond has to see her again. But come on, it's James Bond. So that night he heads to a casino where Domino is at a table with Emilio Largo. Bond and Largo have a fun exchange and James takes Domino for a drink. This is just a cheap way to get them talking again, I don't know. Largo comes to get Domino so they can leave, inviting Bond to lunch at his estate Palmyra. Checking into his hotel, Bond enters through Paula's room beside his own, trying not to alert any intruders he might have. In what's probably my favorite shot in the movie, he uses a recorder he has hidden to listen to see if anybody's been there, and as it turns out, someone has, and the camera follows the path of the intruder as we hear it on the recorder. Bond pulls out his gun when somebody knocks on the door. It's Felix Leiter, who James gut punches to keep him quiet. Hi, Felix. You would have recognized Leiter if his role was ever reprised, but I guess Cecil Linder is out and Rick Van Nutter is in. Heading to the bathroom, he finds Quist hiding in the shower and kicks his ass. Bond lets Quist go, though, so he can send a message to Largo, and that's exactly what it does, as Quist heads right to Palmyra, telling Largo what happened. But Largo doesn't really care, and he just tosses him into his shark pool, adding Quist to our kills. And they even added the red tint for me. Thanks, guys. Bond's intelligence man Pinder brings them all to his hideout so they can figure out a plan of attack. And be equipped, of course. It's Q, who shows up to give Bond some cool gadgets, including a waterproof camera that can take pictures in pitch black on infrared film, a small underwater breather, and lastly a GPS pill for James to swallow when he needs to be found. There's also this jetpack thing here that comes back later. With only 55 hours left until the ransom has to be paid, James heads out, putting that infrared camera to use, hoping to get some evidence underneath the Disco Volante. But Bond rolls a 1 for stealth and immediately gets caught by this diver doing security. Nobody clearly dies in this tussle, so I won't add anything here. But Largo is woken up from the alarms on the ship and decides our explosion count in this movie is too low. How do you think we should fix that, Emilio?
Hand grenades.
Sounds good to me, and we get 4 explosions to add to our count, with each individual grenade counting as its own. Bond tries to get away, but the henchmen spot him poke his head above water and they run him over. Bond unhooks his scuba gear and lets it float to the top, giving the henchmen the impression that he must have died, and they rush off to tell Largo. After that close call, James swims ashore, and lucky for him, someone's driving by. But unlucky for him, that person is Fiona Volpe. What kind of crazy shenanigans is she up to now? She's just gonna drive a little fast and actually drop James off at his hotel. Okay. The next day, James develops his photos, discovering the Disco Volante has an underwater hatch, putting together that the missing jet is probably underwater. Going searching for the jet with Felix in a helicopter, they don't find anything, but they do hover over Palmyra and admire Largo's shark pool. Cool, huh? Fiona and number 2 notice Bond flying close by when they're doing some evil organization talk. She promises to kill Bond herself when the time is right. We cut to Bond arriving at Palmyra for that lunch Largo invited him to, and we get a formal introduction to some henchmen, Vargas and Yanni, now being worthy enough to have names. Largo calls out Vargas for being a sober virgin, paraphrased, but he basically does. Be proud of who you are, Vargas. Emilio and Bond have this weird interaction until Domino says lunch is ready, and Largo asks Bond if he'll take Domino to Junkanoo that night, which is a Caribbean street festival. Back at Bond's hotel room, Fiona Volpe enters to a confused Paula. Volpe says she has a date with Bond. Before Paula can put the pieces together, she gets a knock at her door and answers to Vargas and Yanni. Fiona snoops a little and finds the photos Bond took of the underwater hatch on the Disco Volante before kidnapping Paula. At the Junkanoo parade, that looks like it's really fun. Like, come on, lady, at least try to pretend like you're having a good time. Felix calls up to James, who's on a rich people balcony with Domino. Felix tells James that Paula signed out of the hotel and that she's gone, and Bond rushes away to go figure it out, telling Felix to watch Domino. Bond gets the power cut to Palmyra through Pinder, and then we get some good old-fashioned spying as Bond creeps around Largo's estate trying to get some answers, knocking this one henchman out. It's no big deal for Largo, though, who runs a backup power generator, and James tries to hide, almost getting spotted by Coots. Coots meets Vargas, who's trying to wake up Paula. Wake up, Sleepy Poo, but he confirms that she's not sleeping at all.
She's dead.
An alarm sounds and Vargas and Coots rush off to find out what's going on. Seeing everything he needs, Bond tries to make his own getaway. But it won't be that easy. The alarm was for that knocked out henchman. Largo, knowing they must have an intruder now, puts everyone on high alert. We get 2 quick kills here as James shoots a couple henchmen to get them shooting at each other. He still almost gets away, but this one henchman ambushes it. Knocking each other into the pool, Largo and the rest of the henchmen arrive, and number 2 activates the pool cover, closing them both in the water. Bond wins the underwater fight, adding another quick kill for us. Largo also opens a door for his Sharky boys to come for a little snack. Bond hooks up his water breather, and with the blood from the henchman distracting the shark, he's able to make his getaway. Back with Pinder, he gets dropped off at his hotel. Entering Paula's room and hearing some noise in the bathroom, James finds Fiona Volpe naked as hell. They get it on, but James insists that they gotta get going to Junkanoo to see Felix and Domino. Getting ready to go and opening the door to leave, he's greeted by our now favorite named henchmen, Vargas and Yanni, and some other no-name guy. Fiona also has a gun pulled. They take Bond captive and try to get him to Largo, but get stuck in traffic from the parade. You guys didn't account for driving downtown during a parade? Come on, it's amateur hour out here. James is looking for a way out, and he finds it in this drunk bastard who comes to the window of the car trying to get everybody to take a sip of his Bacardi. Come on, everybody, take a sip. It's a Junkanoo. Bond kicks the bottle out of the man's hand and uses Fiona's lighter to spark the liquor, causing a brief fire but not a notable explosion. Running away, James gets shot in the foot, in the first instance of him getting shot in these films. This gives us another foot chase to add as the henchmen and Fiona try chasing Bond in the parade. Bond gets away and finds a club to hide out in, cleaning himself up in the bathroom, then finding a girl who he dances with to blend in. But it isn't long until Fiona taps on his shoulder and asks to cut in. Volpe dances with Bond, distracting him as Vargas gets to this awful vantage point. You need to see Vargas. If you're not careful, you're gonna— oh, and there it is. He kills Fiona Volpe by mistake.
Mind if my friend sits this one out? She's just dead.
I guess the henchmen just kind of give up after accidentally killing Fiona, and James gets away, now back in the helicopter with Felix. They finally find the camouflage jet, dead Angelo and everything, but unfortunately with no bombs aboard. Bond takes Duvall's personal items off Angelo and surfaces with a new plan. He goes to find Domino, and meeting up with her underwater again, they have some scuba sex. Yes, actually. Surfacing, James confesses the fate of her brother and coerces her into helping him know when the bombs are aboard the Disco Volante. He gives her his camera Geiger counter and tells her to come out onto deck when it goes off. But you guys better watch out, Vargas is close by for a round 2. James has a movie to finish though and harpoons Vargas to a tree, adding the named henchman to our list. Domino tells James about a secret area near Palmyra that Largo has. Bond decides to go check it out. He finds a whole bunch of scuba gear set up at a hidden shore nearby, discovering how Largo is able to operate things on the Disco Volante incognito. James swallows that GPS pill from Q and I guess just chills here until he sees his chance to karate chop this guy and take his place. They swim in the underwater hatch of the Disco Volante, and once aboard, Bond overhears Largo on the phone, telling his captain to take him to the bombs and that the target area is going to be Miami. At the bomb site, Largo and the boys dive back into the water, and they head to a rocky wall, opening up a secret door leading into the hiding place of the nuclear weapons. While loading them up, Bond is recognized and attacked. He gets wrestled in the water but overcomes the henchman, shoving one of those waterproof flares down his throat. But it's too late, the doors close behind him and James is trapped in the cave. That's okay, because Felix comes to his rescue using that GPS pill's location. But back on the Disco Volante, Domino tries to go on deck as the bombs are now aboard. When Largo catches her leaving to do this, he puts together that she must be working for Bond, and then starts getting hella creepy, hinting at torture and stuff. But he's interrupted by Coots, who says it's time to arm the bomb. This is where this movie starts getting really messy for me. I guess they're in Miami now, with only one bomb being transported and the other one staying on the boat. That's my best guess. Either way, as the henchmen and Largo are transporting the one bomb, the US Navy starts dropping in from the sky, and we get a head-to-head water match. There's no way in hell I'm gonna be able to tell who's who in this mess, by the way, so everybody I see is just gonna get a +1. And I'm not gonna count anybody who has their oxygen cut because they all just seem to swim to the surface and it doesn't appear lethal. In this entire underwater battle, we get 64 kills to add to our list. And I'm not gonna edit them in, it would just be 5 minutes of me pointing out people in the background, so hopefully we're just building trust here. Work with me a little bit. We do get 3 lackluster underwater explosions that I'll show as Bond enters the room mid-match and uses that jetpack from earlier to shoot some missiles, and also drops a grenade on 3 Spectre guys. My favorite kill in this match is probably the guy who gets a fucking harpoon to the face. That's pretty sweet. We also get a cool shot of an octopus. Look at him all graceful. James takes this one dead guy's harpoon and kills one of the henchmen who followed Largo trying to escape. That's only 1 for the new guy. I counted the guy he took the harpoon from earlier. We get a brief showdown with Largo and Bond before Largo rips Bond's scuba mask off and makes a break for it again, this time actually getting to the Disco Volante. The Navy overcomes the rest of the Spectre henchmen, winning the fight, and James goes after Largo, managing to hold on to the boat. The Navy chases the Disco Volante when Largo tries to escape, giving us our 3rd chase of the movie, a boat chase. Nice. Largo throws up a smoke screen and we get 4 more explosions in the water to add as this Navy battleship starts shooting at Largo's boat. The Disco Volante then breaks off its back half and turns into what's called a hydrofoil to increase its speed. The back half is surrounded by another 6 explosions in the water before being hit and giving us 2 big ones to add to the list, as we get 1 when it's hit and then another as it incinerates. We also get a lone kill as this guy just sits on the boat and waits for it to explode. Thought I missed ya. Back with Domino, Coots is freaking out a little bit and frees her from a restraint, telling her that Spectre can't arm the bombs anymore as he's thrown the arming device in the sea. Bond climbs aboard the hydrofoil and confronts Largo at the steering wheel. Bond is able to fight off the henchman Largo has, tossing one guy into the water, and I'll add him to the kills because, you know, why not? Largo gets the upper hand on Bond and points a gun at him, but before Largo can pull the trigger, he gets shot in the back with a harpoon from Domino, adding number 2, Emilio Largo, to our list. With the hydrofoil out of control, Bond, Domino, and Coots all abandon ship, and we get our throw the rest of the budget at it moment as the hydrofoil collides with some rocks. I'll add the 2 crew that were still in the cabin now, cause they were knocked out in that cabin that doesn't exist anymore. A plane flies overhead and drops an inflatable boat for Bond and Domino. I don't know what happens to Coots, he's never seen again. I'm not gonna add him to the list cause Bond gives him a buoy before throwing him into the water, but I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Bond and Domino climb into the rescue boat and Bond sets up what's called a Fulton System, which was a real rescue system used by the CIA, Air Force, and Navy from 1965 to 1996. I find this stuff really interesting to read about, so I'll put the Wikipedia articles in the description of the video so you can check them out too. A plane with a skyhook flies by, grabbing the line Bond set up with the Fulton balloon, and brings them both from the boat to the sky, ultimately to safety. And that ends the 4th James Bond movie. So how action-packed was Thunderball? We got 88 kills, 22 explosions, and 3 chase scenes in Thunderball, giving us a total of 113 action events over a 130-minute runtime. This makes Thunderball number 1 in all 3 of our categories, earning the title of most action-packed so far. Will its follow-up be just as crazy? Next week we cover You Only Live Twice and find out. Thanks for watching Action Packed. What'd you think of Thunderball? Probably tell this wasn't my favorite so far. Like, you know, seems like they tried to do too much. I still have no idea how this channel's doing, so like usual, if you have any suggestions for me, leave them in the comments. Also follow us on Instagram. Stay safe, everybody.